Algebraically, we realized a set of real numbers as a field, which means R with its addition as well as multiplication forms a field. In fact, it is not merely a field, it is an ordered field. What do you mean by an ordered field? That is a field equipped with an order. So, again, what is an order? Order is going to be a relation. So, it is familiar for us how this order is behaving, that is less than what I am keeping in my mind. But if somebody is asking what formally is the definition of less than, it's a comparison tool very well, because any x is taken as a real number and y is taken x less than y, we are keeping it in our mind. How to realize this notion? But trying to understand and realize how this order is, so some basic ingredients are needed. How to define this notation as less than or order? See, geometrically, we have some intuitive ideas. Whenever we are realizing R, I mean R as a field itself, with the points on the straight line, and we call that as a number line. So each point has a correspondence with set of real numbers. So we'll start with somewhere the identity element 0 and some unit is selected as 1, and we will have all the right movement 1 plus 1, 1 plus 1 plus 1, like that. That is all the natural numbers will come out. Additive inverses also will appear on the left. Then all rationals as well as irrationals are also filled the entire straight line, and we call that as a number line. Whenever we are realizing that geometrically, our algebraic structure of addition and multiplications are also compatible with this structure. More than that, in this situation, how we have realized the order relation less than is nothing other than that anything to the right is supposed to be greater in value. That is a intuitive idea. In fact, one can compare it with 0 and state this more precisely. Whenever you are putting 0 somewhere, and all the real numbers, I mean all the real numbers on the right side, if you are calling it as x, we will simply say that x's are going to be greater than 0, and we will call them positive real numbers. These were our practice. Once we are in the left of 0, then we will call them negative real numbers. What happens in this case is additive inverse is actually going to be a positive real number. Note that. So these ideas, you have to realize it very formally. What are the basic structure or property you have to state to get positivity? So how you realize positivity? So what we are going to do is in the following way. From our R, that is R is a field, to get the structure of the order, we will consider a non-empty subset P. I will denote it as P. This is a non-empty subset of R, which possess some properties. The elements of P are going to possess some properties. It satisfies fundamentally 3 properties. And we call all the elements in P are positive real numbers. That's what we are going to do. So what are the crucial properties for P? So P is a non-empty subset of R which satisfies the following. First one, if you are taking 2 elements from this set, that has to be well maintained with addition, that is compatible with additions, that is A plus B is again going to be inside P. It never escapes from P. 2 members from P added together again remains inside P. Secondly, it's also compatible with multiplication. It says that A and B are selected, AB is also A dot B. I am rewriting it as AB. That's also preserved. It's not going outside. Preservance of additive structure as well as multiplicative structure. They are the most fundamental things. Then, third one is also crucial in the sense that suppose I am starting with any real number. Then either that real number, if I am looking at any real number A may be inside P, may be a positive element or a positive real number I can call. Otherwise, what will happen? Otherwise, two possibilities I will make it. That is, either A should be 0 or the additive inverse should be in P. These are the three conditions. Let me restate the third one again. Start with any real number A. Either A should be in P or A must be 0 or minus A should be in P. Additive inverse is in P. Exactly one of the conditions should hold, which means A is in any real number, then exactly one holds. One of the following holds. So if A is in P, A itself is a positive real number, you can't look at A equals the other two won't happen. If A is 0, first and third won't happen. If minus A in P, first and second will be omitted. So if I am putting or in between, this A belongs to P or A equals 0 or A minus A is in P, exactly that or actually means only one. If the first one happens, the other two won't happen. In a similar way, all other things. But this last property, we will call that a trichotomy property. Why trichotomy? It exhausts the real number. You take any real number, it gives us three possibilities. Exactly, it disjointifies the entire real line into three sets. We can call the set of positive elements union with the 0, and obviously the negative elements I can push it here. That is set of all minus A, that is set of all minus A, where if minus A is in P, such A's are also the other set, which means I'll call them negative elements. So positive, negative, as well as the single 0, the impartial 0 is also concerned. So it disjointifies us. That is why it is trichotomy is called. One among three, only one will hold. This is the way. So once it disjointifies, we have positive real numbers, we have negative real numbers, then an impartial 0. So once A is in P, we can use the following notations. If A is in P, we use the notation. So this is what is the meaning of that. A belongs to P, we call that A greater than 0. We'll write it like that. And we will say that is a positive real number. On the other hand, A may be 0. If you are giving a possibility, look at the third condition, it is exactly one of the condition holds. A is in P, otherwise it is 0. If both of them are not happening, minus A should be in P. So if A is P union 0, that is maybe 0 or a positive real number, then this member is called a non-negative element, and we use the notation in this case A greater than or equal to 0. This notation will stabilize. This is strictly positive. This is greater than or equal to 0, non-negative real number. Very similarly, the other side we can have it. That is minus A, if it is in P, then we will write A is less than 0, strictly negative or negative real number. Similarly, minus A, either it is in P or if you are allowing 0 also, we will use the notation A less than or equal to 0. So the familiar notations are having a nice meaning now. And we can say that such a member A, this condition holds, then we are calling it a non-positive real number. So all these kind of things, notations you can implement and give you the definitions like that. But once you are having like this, it allows us the exact meaning of comparison or order how to define among real numbers, general real numbers. For example, if A and B are real numbers, we can formally define A is greater than B, suppose we want to look at. Then just look at A minus B If it is available in P, you call that A is greater than B. So comparison is now in between among any two real numbers. So that is what I am trying to say. Once you have comparison with 0, positive, negative and 0, that allows us further. Naturally, A greater than B is going to be defined as A minus B is going to be inside P. We may use another notation also, B less than A in this case. Either you can write A greater than B, or you can write B less than A, the appropriate. So that is the way one can give it. Similarly, if you are allowing A minus B is in P union 0, these notations of A greater than or equal to B and B greater than or less than or equal to A can be implemented. So these notations are very much useful for us, and it allows further. Basically, as I mentioned, the trichotomy allows us a disjointification of the entire real numbers into 3, and that allows the formal definition of comparison of any two elements A and B. So there are once again, if you revisit the trichotomy, it says the following: you take any two real numbers A and B, they are real numbers, then either A greater than B or A equals B or A less than B should happen, because A minus B is a real number. A minus B is in P, you can have the first. If it is 0, you can have A equals B. Otherwise, both these things are failing, then B minus A should be there in P. So that is A less than B. So once again, exactly one of the thing will hold. So the whole restatement can be done with the trichotomy like this. If you are starting with any two real numbers, exactly one of the thing will hold. That also one can see. So there is obviously the compatibility of addition as well as multiplication can be talked of in this case. So for that, how we can implement that kind of thing. So this is the way what we are trying to look at now. We have the order relation now. So suppose I'm taking 3 members, I mean A, B as well as C. They are all in real numbers. And if I have A greater than B, and I know that B is greater than C, both will hold, then transitively I can say A greater than C, which we know, but how do you prove it? Now we have enough tools to prove it. We have a formal definition. So this is what is transitivity, right? A greater than B, the relation is like that. A greater than B, A related to B, B related to C, then A related to C. So how will you prove this? Proof is very beautiful. See, A greater than B. This implies what? In our language, A minus B is a positive element. So it's a member in P. The second one says B minus C is in P. But remember, P is closed under addition. So these two members, A minus B and B minus C together, they can be added together. So what it gives? It gives us A minus B plus B minus C, which is nothing other than that. It should be in P, which means that A minus C is in P. But that sounds something good. A minus C is in P, that is ultimately what you are in need. This is what it says with A greater than C. So transitivity holds. This is how the proof goes. So the next question is how the additive structure is behaving with order. How to answer that question? Suppose A is greater than B, A and B are real numbers, and C is any other real number. Then can you compare A plus C and B plus C? Obviously, we are expecting A plus C is greater than B plus C. This is what? This is another result we can say. If A is greater than B, then addition with the C again maintains that inequality. That is what it says. So addition is well behaving with disorder, we can say that. as a proof. Again, it is the very formal way one can go. What does A greater than B remembers? A minus B is a member in P. That is what it says. What you wanted to look at? You want to say that A plus C is greater than B plus C. So ultimately, this real number is greater than this. How will you prove that? Just look at what happens. Simply try to write down. That's all. See, A plus C minus B plus C. In some sense, you try to look at. Will you get something from here? Because obviously A plus C minus B plus C, this will be nothing other than that A minus B. This is going to be in P. Why is it so? A minus B is in P from the hypothesis. A plus C minus B plus C is going to be A minus B. Right? C goes off, which says that A minus B is a positive element. And we are going to get A plus C is greater than B plus C. Since this fellow is a positive member that is known for us, this is a positive element, which says that A plus C is greater than B plus C. So additive addition is well maintaining with our order relation. What about multiplication? How it behaves? That also we'll check it. That is, if A is greater than B and C is a real number, what can you say about AC and BC? Then obviously you will expect if C is a positive element, then what you are going to get is it maintains the multiplicative structure. AC is going to be greater than BC. This we are expecting. On the other hand, if C is a negative element, C is less than 0, what you are expecting is it reverses. That is, AC is going to be less than BC. This is what you are trying to prove. This is also a compatible notation with our algebraic structure and order relation. So AC, so first part we will look at. See, if C is greater than 0, you are supplied with A greater than B. So A greater than B, which implies A minus B is a positive element. It is in P. C is greater than 0, which means that C is also a positive element. Now two elements are from P. You can multiply that. So A minus altogether will give A minus B times C is also in P. But that distributivity help for us. AC minus BC should be in P, which says nothing other than that AC is going to be greater than BC. Now, how do you look at the other side? If C is going to be less than 0, C is less than 0, then obviously minus C should be greater than 0. So you can work with that. That will lead this, because in that case already we have A minus B is in P, so use that. So A minus B is a positive element, minus C is also a positive element. Multiply with that, what it says, that should be a positive element. But this says minus AC plus BC. Because of the field property, this fellow is going to be inside P. It says that BC minus AC is in P. On the other hand, AC is going to be less than BC. That's all. BC minus AC is in P means equivalently BC is greater than AC. That's all. So that's also compatible with the structure. So this is how the multiplication as well as addition behaves with the order relation. Okay, so can we say something more? We have defined positivity and positive elements are like this and all, but are you sure that is there exist some elements in positive set? P, we are writing it out P. Is there any element inside there? Okay. An expected element 0 is impartial. It's not a positive. It is neither positive nor negative. It is impartial. What is other option? 1, for example. 1 is a real number. So 1 is going to be greater than 0. Is it correct? Do you have a proof? Why 1 should be greater than 0? See, once 1 is greater than 0, 1 is a positive element. All natural numbers are also going to be positive because 1 is positive. If you are proving 1 plus 1 is also a positive element because positive elements are invariant under addition. It will keep inside. So 2 also belongs to be like that. 2 is also positive, 3 is also positive. So by the induction, any natural number is going to be positive. So we'll be getting a very big set inside immediately. But how will you say that 1 is greater than 0? It needs a proof. How can you prove that? 1 is greater than 0. In fact, something more is true. You can realize 1 in another way. See, the easiest way is that, so we will write it as a theorem. That is, just look at any real number, for example. A may be any real number. Whatever may be the real number, trichotomy will say the following. If you are taking a real number, either it is greater than 0 or less than 0 or equal to 0. All these conditions are there. If A is a 0 and if A is 0, not equal to 0, that is away from 0, then you find out A square. What do you mean by A square? A times A. This is always positive. That's a good result which will help us. So any real number, any non-zero real number you take, just take the square. It's always positive. Square of a real number, non-zero real number is always positive. You have a result like that. So how to prove this? So you want to prove that this fellow is greater than 0. A is a real number. A is not equal to 0. Then A square is greater than 0. See, A is given to be non-zero. So there are two possibilities. This implies by trichotomy either A is in P or its additive inverse in P. P means positive real number. So just find out both cases. This implies A is in P. Then what happens for A square? A square is A into A. Both are in P. So A square should be in P. It is closed under addition. Now if minus A is in P, what will you do? Still it holds because minus A into minus A, that is a field property, will guarantee that this is A square only. That serves us, and this is once again going to be in P. So in both cases, you will be having A square should lie inside P. So whatever may be a non-zero real number, it always, the squaring will take you inside the positive set. But then what is advantage? Advantage is nothing other than that. Once A is away from 0, such a real number, square is always positive. Why don't you use it for 1? 1 is different from 0. Right? That needs a proof actually. Those who are really interested can try. In a field, 1 stands for the multiplicative identity, 0 stands for the additive identity. They can't be the same. Somebody can try it as an exercise. So they are different actually. 1 is different from 0. So 1 square, by the previous part, you will be getting 1 square, which is equal to 1 into 1. That should be positive. So 1 is always greater than 0. So at least one element which is positive is available with us. You have stated there exists a P, something like that. At least existence of one element is with us. 1 should be in P. In fact, as I mentioned before, all natural numbers are in P. That is, if you are taking any n, small n in a natural number, then we can see that n is positive. It is just induction because once 1 is there and k is there, k plus 1 also should be there. That's all. So by inductively, one can just say that because n equals 1, it is true. It's a statement about natural numbers. Assume it for k plus 1, inductively will give k plus 1 also the induction hypothesis, k is true, then k plus 1 also should be in P as 1 is inside. So it completed by the mathematical induction. All natural numbers are positive. So geometrically, these things are also very nice to see. Whenever we are looking at the real numbers, we are having 1, 2, 3 on the right hand side like this. So they are all positive we got. Now what about, see, they are not merely the entire ray, open ray I can say, from 0 onward. 0 is not positive. Anything on the right is going to be positive. So are there any other elements which are positive? Of course. We may tempted to say that 1 by 2, for example, just make it into half. There is a rational number, right? So 1 by 2 is also going to be positive. So if I'm marking 1 by 2 here, it's a positive real number. Half, if I'm writing 0, is strictly less than half, which is less than 1 in fact. Can you prove that? Why it should be? Is this part is clear? Actually, two parts are there. 0 is less than half and half is less than 1. Why it should be? At least, why half should be greater than 0? See, if half is, so there are two parts as I mentioned, half is greater than 0, why is it so? Half is not equal to 0, that you can see easily. It's away from 0. More than that, you have 2, it's a positive element, just multiply with that. Such kind of things you can apply it, right? So if I'm just multiplying 2 is this, I want to say that this is strictly positive. So if it is negative, what will happen? If, for example, if half is less than 0, right? Suppose I am multiplying with 2 on both sides. What happens? 2 is a positive real number. So 2 into this part is 1. 2 into 0 is 0. 1 is less than 0 will be getting. This is not possible, right? So in such a manner, you can try the other side also. Half is why it is going to be less than 1. So half is greater than 0. So it is not for midway between 0 and the unit, I mean 1. You take any real number, same argument you can do that. That is, if you have a real number, a positive real number somewhere at A, then halfway in between, that is A by 2 I can say, or half A, that is always a positive real number. Which says further, whenever you are saying that A is positive, strictly positive, half A is positive, its half is again positive. So what it says, it's a nice thing now. You can go nearer and nearer to 0 as much as you like. So if you are asking the following question, what is the least positive real number? 0 is not a positive real number, but can you just say that a least positive real number exists? We can say that in natural numbers, 1 is the beginning. In fact, we know that fundamentally. But if among positive reals, you'll be in trouble. You won't get a least positive real number. The 0 is not positive, but next to 0 to the right, you won't get it, because this is the situation. Once A is positive, then half A is a number for us to show that this is in between 0 and A. So the method of proof is exactly the same what we have done for the above. So this situation is giving a fantastic thing, but it has another, it sounds in another way also whenever you are looking at. See, this is another part. You are trying to come nearer and nearer to 0, but you can't catch the first or the least positive real number. As much as close as you want to go. How to say in another way? That's a beautiful rephrase if you are taking. We will write it as a theorem if you like. It says that suppose I have a real number A and I have a speciality with A. See, my real number is A is like that. It is non-negative, which means 0 is less than or equal to A. And that can be made less than for any pre-assigned epsilon. Epsilon is a natural notation to use positive real number in mathematics. So, if A is a non-negative real number, non-negative means either 0 or positive real number, and that has to be less than for any pre-assigned epsilon, that is less than epsilon for every epsilon positive. In such a situation, can you say something about it? That is what is going to be the byproduct of the above arguments, what you are trying to look at. So you have an A, you know that either it may be starting from 0 onwards. I don't know whether it is here. So at least on this ray part it has to. But that has to be less than for every epsilon positive. Then the only possibility is that A must be 0. That is what it says. So how will you do that? You need a proof for this. This is the theorem now. A is any real number which satisfies or such that 0 less than or equal to A, which is less than epsilon for every epsilon greater than 0, then this compulsorily will give you A must be 0. That is the theorem what we need. But it's very simple proof. How to prove that? Just assume on the contrary. See, this part is already there. A is a non-negative real number. A is greater than or equal to 0. So two possibilities are there. Either A is 0, this actually having two possibilities. Either A equal to 0 or A is strictly greater than 0. So you have to bar this. That is, A is not going to be greater than 0. Suppose on the contrary, either this or this has to happen. So if A is greater than 0, what will happen? If A is greater than 0, just you think about our discussion was. Our A was here, then just go the halfway, it is half times A. So this half times A should be a positive real number, right? So I can just select this fellow as epsilon, a positive real number. Once A is positive, half times A is also strictly positive. So call that fellow as the new epsilon. To be specific, I can call by name epsilon naught, a particular value of epsilon, that's all. So if I am calling epsilon naught as half A, this is a strictly positive real number, and our above definition argument will say that our epsilon naught, which is going to be half A, this is strictly less than A that we know. This is obviously a positive real number. So we have a candidate for epsilon, which is this fellow, which is strictly less than A, which is not possible by this. This part is giving like that. Any positive real number, it must satisfy A is strictly less than epsilon. That is a contradiction to that fact. So the only possibility, this is bar, so the only possibility is A must be 0. So any non-negative real number which is less than any pre-assigned positive epsilon must be 0. It's a very wonderful result. In fact, a little bit more modified way we can write it. Instead of A is in R, A is in R, a real number, such that you can even give, just give less than or equal to epsilon for every epsilon. Then also it follows A equals 0. So that modification also one can sit and write for the proof, that part. Now, this kind of properties, the order properties we can see, it actually gives more nice picture now. Let us look at some more properties. As a theorem, see, if A is a real number, anything multiplied by 0 definitely has to give 0 mean, that we have shown before. Now, suppose I have a product AB, right? If it is a positive fellow, so AB equals 0, one of them should be 0, right? So AB is greater than 0, then can you say something about A and B? This is another fact or a theorem I will write. If AB is greater than 0, then two possibilities will occur, right? Then one, A greater than 0 and B also should be greater than 0 in that case. Otherwise, what should happen? If A is less than 0, then automatically B also should be less than 0. These are the possibilities. So that is coming as a theorem. If the product of two real numbers is strictly positive, then either the first one or the second one. First one means A greater than 0 as well as B also that time greater than 0, or I will get A less than 0 and B must be less than 0. So this, how to prove that? That is another thing. Okay. So our assumption is AB is greater than 0. But AB is greater than 0, immediately say that AB not equal to 0, which again says that A not equal to 0 and B also not equal to 0. One of them is 0, the product is going to be 0, right? So we can use trichotomy. A is not equal to 0, which means either A is positive or A is less than 0. These are the possibilities. Now look from A greater than 0, what will happen? A greater than 0, then it's away from 0, so multiplicative inverse exists. 1 by A also should be greater than 0. If 1 by A is less than 0, what will happen? We can see. A is greater than 0, 1 by A is non-zero, that we know. It cannot be less than 0 also, because on multiplication with A, it will take the contradiction. So 1 by A also should be greater than 0. But 1 by A is greater than 0, there is an easy way of writing down B. In that case, B I can write using this 1 by A. If I am attacking 1 by A on AB, what will happen? This is simply B. But I know that AB is positive. It's a positive fellow. 1 by A is also a positive fellow. So B should be positive. Right? So I'll be getting, once A is greater than 0, then my conclusion says that B also should be positive. Now, on the other hand, what will happen? Suppose A is less than 0, that is A is less than 0, then 1 by A also should be less than 0. But 1 by A is less than 0, then if you are rewriting B as 1 by A times AB, what can you say about that? This has to be less than 0, alright? Because AB is positive, 1 by A is negative, attacking on both sides, it will definitely give you reversion. That is, this 1 by A times AB is less than 0 will come out, which says B is less than 0. So this is how the proof goes. So as a theorem, AB is greater than 0, either the first will hold or the second also will hold. So the first part is A greater than 0, in that case B also greater than 0, otherwise A less than 0, with that B must be less than 0. It is an immediate corollary if you wanted to look at. Nothing other than that, if AB is a negative real number, that also you can deduct if you like. So as a corollary, as a last result, we'll write it down. If AB is less than 0, then either 1, A is less than 0 and at that time B must be greater than 0, or secondly, A is greater than 0, at that time B should be less than 0. This is how it has to come. So these are the fundamental things with the order properties what you have to look at. So all the proofs are they are interesting. So just have to look at these inequalities. The more inequalities you have to discuss along this line.